Hey guys, my name is Harrison, or what many of you know me as World Geo, and this is part 3 of my series to visit every corner of the United States. Today I'll be covering my stop at Rocky Mountain National Park, Colorado. This is the second national park I'll be covering in the series, with Big Bend being the first. This park is located in north central Colorado, and it covers 265,461 acres. I didn't mind driving the extra miles for a cheaper price of sleep, so I stayed in Granby, Colorado, which is just south of Grand Lake, which is on the western side of the park. If you want a relaxing walk, then I would hike the Coyote Valley Trail. This hike is a mile round trip and has no elevation gain to speak of. This is one of the first stops in the park if you are traveling from the Grand Lake side, which I did. This is a good hike to do with a family and is a good spot to check out wildlife in the meadow. This is a good introduction to the park before you really start to get into the intensity that the park offers. I passed a few of the trailheads because I was anxious to start the Trail Ridge Road. If you aren't familiar with the Trail Ridge Road, let me give you a few words to describe it. Jaw-dropping. The Trail Ridge Road is a 48-mile road that connects the eastern parts of the park to the west. It is also the highest continuous road in the United States, with the highest point reaching 12,183 feet above sea level. 11 miles of the road is above the tree line, and this personally is my favorite part to drive. Driving from Grand Lake, you pass the Continental Divide at Milner Pass. Right when I was about to drive above the tree line, there was a moose with her calf. If you've never been to a national park, if you see traffic randomly with a bunch of people getting out of the cars, then it usually means there is wildlife. Rocky Mountain National Park has one of the highest frequencies of spotting wildlife in the national park system. Once you get above the tree line, you will reach the Alpine Visitor Center, which is the highest visitor center in the national park system at 11,796 feet above sea level. There isn't any words I can use to describe the views of the visitor center, and if you feel like the parking lot isn't good enough, then there's the Alpine Ridge Trail, which is a 0.7 mile out and back trail that starts at the parking lot. When you are this high up, the weather and temperatures change dramatically, so dress accordingly. Before the drive, I could have done without a t-shirt, and at the visitor center, the wind kept taking my breath away. Also be conscious of the possibility of experiencing altitude sickness. You will breathe hard with almost any movement, so make sure to stay hydrated and move at your own pace. The short hike has 147 feet elevation gain, and it makes you feel like you're on top of the world, even with the short distance and climb. The Alpine Visitor Center offers a nice museum plus a coffee bar, which is a perfect refreshment after the short hike. On my last day at the park, I wanted to do some distance hiking, so I decided to hike at the Bear Lake Trailhead, which is at the eastern portion of the park. To get here from the Grand Lake side, you have to drive the entire Trail Ridge Road, which is an amazing way to drive somewhere. There's plenty of pullouts along the road, with each one offering better views than the last. At the time I hiked at the Bear Lake Trailhead, you need to have a registration, so make sure to check ahead of the time because you won't be allowed past without one. There's plenty of hikes you can do at the Bear Lake Trailhead that takes you to some of the iconic alpine lakes the park has to offer. This is the popular part of the park, so it's best to book one of the early times to try and avoid the crowds. Bear Lake is the first and easiest lake to get to, as it's right beside the parking lot. I'd say it's a short quarter mile, if that, from the parking lot, with the loop around the lake making it 0.7 miles in total. From there, I headed to Dream Lake, which is about a mile from Bear Lake. On the way, you pass the smaller Nymph Lake, which gives you a feel of how many lakes are in this region of the park. From Bear Lake to Dream Lake, it's a 426 feet elevation gain, which isn't bad, but if you aren't used to hiking at higher elevations, it can be a little bit more difficult. Once you get to Dream Lake, you fully understand where the name comes from because the views make you feel like you're in one. I was left without words, and really no words are needed because none can come close to describing the beauty the lake has to offer, with the beautiful Hallett Peak being the perfect backdrop. If you want an even better view of Hallett Peak and the park's alpine lakes, then you can keep marching on towards Emerald Lake. It's a little bit over a mile more with a few hundred feet elevation gain, but trust me, it's worth it. This was the first time during the hike when I had to walk on snow, which it wasn't a lot, but it was in June, so this is the perfect example to just be prepared for anything. Just when you thought the views couldn't get better, Emerald Lake just blows right by those expectations. Emerald Lake sits directly under Hallett Peak, and it offers a much more clear view of the towering peaks above. It can be busy, but there's plenty of massive boulders to sit on and take in the views. This is a good place to eat a snack if you brought any and spend time with the chipmunks in the area. I met a good friend who enjoyed the beautiful lake with me, which was an amazing treat, and a cherry on top of the perfect experience I had at this park. Right when I thought I'd seen the prettiest lake at the park, I heard Lake Hahaya is even better, so of course I had to entertain my curiosity for it. The Lake Hahaya trail breaks off at Dream Lake if you go to your left. The lake is 2 miles from the trailhead, and I can confirm it's the most challenging out of these hikes. You have a sharp incline through the pine forest, and the trail was quite muddy when I was there. You have one switchback, and this is where the incline gets the less steep. As you move out of the tree line, you get amazing views of the glacier basin area, along with views of the previous Bear and Nymph lakes, with Bierstadt Lake in the distance. The trail really levels off at this point, and the rest is through more pine forest. You have a slight scramble area before you see the lake, but it's nothing major. Once you get across the rugged coast of the lake, and then you are met with a stunning bright blue lake under even more rocky mountains. This one really made me stop and stare with awe. I just couldn't believe that each lake could outdo each other as you went. The lake had some of the bluest water I have ever seen, and it matches the gray mountain peaks perfectly. This was everything I did in the park, and let's just say my experience wasn't disappointing. The Trail Ridge Road is the prettiest drive I've ever done up to this point, and I think it's safe to say it won't be easily beat. On top of that, these alpine lakes just make you sit there without words. I put this park and experience over the last two in this series no matter what category. Thank you everyone for watching so much, and if you have any questions about the park, just ask below and I will try my best to answer. Stay tuned for part 4 of my series to travel every corner of the United States. This is a huge task, but one I daydream of all the time, and I will give my all to conquer this and share the whole experience. Hit that thumbs up and subscribe button, and also check out my series where I am going over every aspect of each state on a geography level. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, World Geo out.